Hello everybody, and welcome again to my channel. It's been a little while since I've done a video, and Mr. Kenneth Floden has given me reason to do another one. He did a morning worship not too long ago. It's on JW Broadcasting. You can go and watch it for yourself and form your own opinion. But I wanted to discuss the context, or rather the content of what he talked about. So he talked about Jude, and he was attempting to apply this to apostates. He read various parts of this and basically applied it to apostates with no proof, which is the same as making an unsupported assertion. Now, he quoted a watchtower for support of his position, and he gave the date of that watchtower, February 15th, 2015. He didn't give you the page, he didn't give you the paragraph, but at least he gave you the watchtower. So he narrowed it down, and he quoted the watchtower as if it had the same authority as the Bible. Anyways, continuing with our discussion, he brought out that modern-day Jehovah's Witnesses, in the context of his discussion, are not like those in Jude's day. They follow the slave. So he's equating following the slave, that is the faithful and discreet slave, or today the governing body, as being the same as following Jehovah, or God, or being a Christian as they understand it. So he talks about the fact that apostates disagree. He asked the question, are apostates today as reprehensible as those in Jude's day? And the answer pretty much comes out to be yes. He asks if they're just perhaps misguided. He says no, they are devious. He asked the question, have you ever noticed that apostates generally don't try to reason from the scriptures? And this is not true. Apostates present a large majority of their arguments from the scriptures. I have done so on this channel multiple times. JW Facts does so multiple times. Multiple other websites do exactly the same thing. So once we present the scriptural arguments as to why the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses are bunk, we then present the arguments as to why they are emotionally destructive, which does not require scriptures. So he's asking a question which is irrelevant. It's assuming something that is not true. This is nothing more than propaganda. But he answers his own question. He says that apostates don't use the scriptures because Jehovah's Witnesses know the scriptures and they would see through the twisting. Again, not true. When presented with scriptural facts that they can't overcome, Jehovah's Witnesses are trained to shut their minds off and ignore what is presented to them. That is what they regularly do. And then he makes some comments about instead of going after scriptures, they pick at the org, they twist the truth, they use lies and half-truths to deceive. On my channel, I have regularly presented information directly from Watchtower articles, and I have provided references so that you can look them up for yourself. And I have put on screen some of the information that I have presented so that you can fact-check it. This is something that Kenneth Floden has not done. He has not presented those references. Anyways, going on, he raises this issue with a sincere older lady that sent in a photocopy from a page of a 1910 watchtower. But you will notice that despite the fact that he could quote the date of the watchtower that he quoted from, he doesn't give you a specific date for this 1910 watchtower. In 1910, I'm not exactly sure of this, but I believe there were 2 watchtowers per month, and they were 30 pages each. So 24 times 30 pages, that's a lot of pages to search through to find that specific quote. So why is it that he can't even give you the proper date of the watchtower with the 1910 that he's talking about? He's not really giving you the reference here, is he? Why? Because he doesn't want you to go and look for yourself. You would have upwards of 700 pages to search through, and the fine print to find the quote that he is talking about. That's called obfuscating. He is hiding the truth from you. That is deception by omission. So he's presenting this scenario that's very sanitized, where he can make it look like, oh, the apostates were being untruthful. They covered up part of the page, blah, blah, blah. Well, why don't you give us the actual date, page, and paragraph of the watchtower that you're talking about so that we can fact check it? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of your own literature? The presentation there shows me that you are scared to death of what is in your literature. Otherwise, you would have put it on screen the way I put your literature on screen when I'm talking about it. So, as far as trustworthiness there, Mr. Kevin Floden gets a score of 0. Not trustworthy at all. Anyway, so he goes on to talk about how when he got the original of that Watchtower article, which again he didn't give you the date, he could see the deceit. Someone had covered up part of the page. Well, Mr. Floden not only covered up part of the page, but he covered up the entire article. Who is being deceitful here, Mr. Floden? At least somebody sent you a photocopy with something that you could look up. You gave us something that would require hours for us to search for, to find. And on top of this, keep in mind that Kingdom Halls don't have 1910 watchtowers. Most of us have no access to 1910 watchtowers. Unless you happen to be in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses that's like 4th or 5th generation, you will have no access to a 1910 watchtower. You will have no way to get it unless you look on the website, or look on, not the website, but if you look online for people who have archived these things. And chances are, in my experience, the apostates have done a better job of archiving your literature than you have. Why? Because nobody has ever written as much apostate literature as the Watchtower has. Watchtower's old literature is the most apostate literature it is possible to find. And they know this and they're scared about it. Henceforth, they are forced to hide it from you. If you doubt me, go to your local Kingdom Hall and ask them to get a copy of the 1910 bound volume of the Watchtower. You'll have some elders asking you why you're so interested in this older information on a fairly short basis, despite the fact that Mr. Kevin Floden is referring to it in the current JW broadcasting. So, Mr. Floden, you're talking about apostates being deceitful and spreading half-truths, but you talk about information that the average Jehovah's Witness cannot even get their hands on. Who's hiding information? Who is spreading half-truths? If you were so convinced of your righteousness, you would make your information available, but you don't. Why? Because the Watchtower organization is cowardly. They're hiding. They can do nothing more than try to make it look as if they are actually doing good things. And your video proves that beyond the shadow of a doubt. You have no problem listing the date of a Watchtower from 2015, but you can't be troubled to do that for a Watchtower from 1910, because you know that it's incriminating. Anyway, he goes on to talk about what's in that Watchtower, and the funny thing about this is that Russell did at some juncture say that if you had to choose, it would be better to read from studies in the Scriptures than from the Bible. He did also say if you doubted that, you could back it up by reading the Bible, but the driving thrust of his argument was that if you had to choose, you would be better off reading studies in the Scriptures. And the funny thing about that is that the Watchtower currently has disavowed pretty much all of the teachings of studies in the Scriptures. So Mr. Floden is scared to death that you will see this for yourself. This is why he has purposefully selected an argument from a Watchtower which you cannot get unless you look in places where the Watchtower tells you not to look. So, I ask you, who is being deceitful? Every time I present information, I encourage you to go and prove it to yourself. Go and look at the references. Go and read the source material. Mr. Floden does not do this. He references in a Watchtower that you cannot get, and he expects you to take his word for it and not to look it up. And on top of that, if you want to, you will have to spend hours poring over the 1910 Watchtower to find his specific quote. So he has not made your job easy. That is not being transparent. Mr. Floden, I do not know if you are deluded or if you are purposefully propagating lies and mistruths, but you are following the standard of the corporation which you are serving, and I am thoroughly disappointed. If this is your attempt at proving apostates are dishonest, you have just bolstered our case, Mr. Floden. So I thank you for that. I thank you very much for all that you do to demonstrate who you are. I appreciate it. Anyways, that's my video for this time. Thanks for watching.